Okay, we are good to go.
All right, so we're going to start this meeting, special meeting of the Design Review Commission, June 10th. Start with a roll call. This is Patrick Collins. Glenn, you're on mute.
Glenn Cass.
John,
John Gray here.
and Eugene was here. Is he gone now?
I don't see him.
He was there before.
Yes, he was. Hopefully he'll call back in. Ultimately, you do have a quorum, so you can continue with the meeting.
Okay, we're going to figure he's going to maybe get a hold of us later. So next item is adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt? I'll make the motion to adopt. How about a second?
Second.
There we go. All in favor? Aye. Glenn?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
All right.
Patrick,
So
your audio is a little
In and out.
Really?
Yeah, I had trouble understanding you.
Give me just a second. So we have the best bandwidth, I guess. Is that any better? No. Huh. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not using a different laptop than I did before. You want me to
That's
Right now, you're clear.
laptop?
I think it may be how you're holding it, or if something's covering the mic, maybe.
It just got a lot better.
Okay, I'm not going to touch anything. I had it on the
Okay.
deck before. It didn't like that, so this is where we are now. All right. So now we're moving to public comment. This is the section for public comment about anything that is not on the agenda this evening. And Sarah, you're the gatekeeper.
I do not see any public comment, but I did just want to make an announcement that everyone is welcome to attend the webinar as an attendee. And then you can raise your hand when the chair calls for public comment using the raise your hand function or feature on the platform. If you're calling in just via telephone, you can press *9 and that will alert that you would like to have a public comment. You'll be admitted as an attendee and then able to make your comment. And sorry, we just got one phone call listener. So, and each speaker is allowed for 3 minutes. So that will occur now and then also during each public comment period for each item. I don't have any raised hands as we speak.
All righty. So next item is the consent calendar, DR 2219, TP 4919, 3483 Golden Gate Way, and the recommendation is continue the matter without consideration to the June 24th meeting. Can I get a motion
I'll make a motion on that.
and a second?
I'll second.
All right, I'm gonna say aye. Glenn,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
All right, and is Eugene back?
Looks like he's here. Eugene, are you able to connect? Eugene, can you speak?
Have him check his mute.
Yeah, it's not on. It's on mute. All right, we'll move on. All right, the next item is study session or none. Continued public hearings are none. New public hearing, HCP 01-20. Robert Marie Schmidt and Melanie is our planner.
Good evening, commissioners and members of the public. Tonight, I'm presenting HTP 0120, which is a request for a hillside development permit and a design review permit for the construction of a 1,749 square foot detached 2-story building, including a garage with a maximum ridge height of 26 feet, which requires a tree permit for the removal of 3 protected trees on the parcel that has an existing 2-story single-family residence located in the Hillside Overlay District at 1806 Release Valley Road. Next slide, please. The property is located at the intersection of Release Valley Road and Vaughn Road. Current access is off of Vaughn Road, which is a private street. The parcel is a substandard square-shaped lot with 2 sides of the parcel facing a street. R20 zoning requires a minimum of a 20,000 square foot lot. This parcel is at 17,603 square feet, making the property substandard in lot area. An existing 2-story residence is located at the top of the parcel at the south elevation. The parcel slopes up from the north to the south elevation. A grade change naturally divides the property into 2 relatively flat buildable areas. The southern portion of the parcel, where the existing residence is, and the northern portion of the parcel where the addition is proposed. The addition, as previously mentioned, is for a 2-story detached building with a garage at the first floor and a workshop and living space at the top. It will be connected to the main residence via a deck. Other work included in the project is outdoor space, including a new pool with a spa, new landscaping, retaining walls, and new vegetation. While there appear to be many locations to place the proposed building on the parcel, the following address the opportunity. The applicant proposes to site the building at the northwest corner of the property. It would also require a new curb cut off the north elevation off Release Valley Road. Having the slope in the middle of the property has led the applicant to design a detached building, as I mentioned, that will be connected via a deck. The building is proposed to be built on a relatively flat area, which is consistent with residential design guidelines. Vegetation and location of the proposed building help reduce privacy and visibility impacts. Though the proposed development is located near the western neighbor, the second story will look at the neighbor's garage and east side, which is elevation. To help reduce any potential privacy and visibility impacts, additional vegetation screening is proposed along the shared property line. Other locations on the property are not ideal because it will either require additional grading or tree removal, appear more massive due to location and lack of vegetation, or would require variances. Their overall design is generally consistent with residential design guidelines. However, staff finds further compliance can be achieved by reducing the plate height of the first story to lower the overall height of the building. Reducing the plate height will help the building be more in scale with the surrounding neighborhood. In the initial submittal, the applicant proposed a plate height of 12 feet, and after staff recommendation, they lowered the plate height to 11. Staff recommends lowering the plate height, as I said, to 10 feet to reduce the scale of the building further, to be in context with adjacent neighbors, adhering to residential design guidelines. The residence will be one of the larger homes in the area. However, existing and proposed landscaping, architectural design, and reduction of the overall height will help reduce the massing and appearance of the building, making it compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. 3 black walnut trees are proposed for removal. Per the arborist report, 1 tree is dead and the other 2 range from good to fair in health and fair to poor in structure. Staff is conditioning the owners to plant 3 24-box native species trees as replacement. Since 1 tree is dead and the other 2 are not in the best health or structure, staff feels that the 3 24-inch box trees is sufficient mitigation, as they equivalent to 6 15-gallon trees. As well, most of the native species that can be planted are oaks, which require distance from other plants for their preservation. And the project has an extensive landscape plan. All proposed color and materials are dark, which will help the property blend into the natural environment, and all exterior lighting proposed is dark sky compliant. The project has been evaluated in accordance to the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and determined to be categorically exempt under Section 15301, Class 1, existing facilities. At the time of the preparation of this report, 3 comments were received from referral agencies. The project was also noticed to the neighbors 300 feet of the subject property and was posted 3 places. At the time of the writing of this report, staff had received no public comments. 1 comment was received after publication and was forwarded to the Design Review Commission. Staff recommends that the Design Review Commission hold a public hearing, review the application, find the project exempt from CEQA, and adopt Resolution 2020-04, approving the project subject to conditions. A project-specific condition is a requirement to lower the plate height for the first floor to 10 feet. I'm available for any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Glenn?
None.
John?
I do have one question. I have not had the opportunity to see the finished boards on the project. Melanie, you mentioned the colors are dark. I did see on the drawings, the colors were, the major color on the stucco was called light taupe. And I was just curious, is that really dark? Is that going to be a blend-in kind of color?
If I remember correctly, let me go to the staff report where it talks about colors. The color had changed, the stucco color, so that after discussing with the applicants, the first submittal, to a lunar landing, which is a cooler top color, which is a little bit darker than the proposed, than the color that was mentioned.
So the drawings actually includes both colors.
Is the applicant going to have a color board or something we can see, I imagine, as part of their presentation? Because I have the same question.
I have some of the colors and materials that I can show you and I could just get them real quickly. I just don't know how well it's going to be viewed.
Oh, it'd give us something at least.
Yeah.
Let's see how the applicant goes. I had a question on, and maybe it's for the applicant, but they're looking to do an extra curb cut, right? And they're keeping the existing one and keeping the existing driveway, and then there'll be a new driveway out of what appears to be gravel. Is that what that's supposed to be, or is that supposed to be the color garage?
I will let the architect Sandra respond to that one. I think it is to be gravel.
Okay.
Sorry, if that's what you were saying. You kind of went in and out, but but overall, Matt Latrop will be reviewing the plans, and we'll have the final. As a city engineer, we'll make the final determination of what the material should be.
Okay. And Eugene, do you have anything?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, finally. Okay, I was struggling all along to get through here. So yes, I have. I got a little distracted here, so I'm focused on this item. But my question right now, Patrick, we're in the comment period for commissioners.
Yeah. No, we're in the question for the planner. We haven't even seen the applicant yet.
Oh, okay. I reserve my comments for the applicant. Thank you, Patrick.
So
And then-
I feel like I left back on here again. Thank you.
yeah. So do we?
And then I will say I don't have the lunar landing color, so maybe the architect does. I have the older color, but I do have the material and color for what the proposed roof will be and the decking that I can try to show you if you'd like to see that.
Let's see what the applicant has.
We gave those all to the city, but I will tell you that the taupe color, we went up to the next darkest one in the palette that comes in the same tone. And it is a little bit darker than the next door neighbor. And what they have is a stucco home that's also, it's kind of a mushroom color, but not greenish. It's the best way to explain that. Melanie, is there anything else I need to say?
I can, if you'd like, I found the color online, so I can share my screen real quick to show you. I know it's not always accurate, but I can at least show you what that color looks like if you'd like, if I was sharing my screen. So this is the color proposed, this lunar landing. Does everyone see that?
Mhm.
Beforehand, it was, I think, a water mist or a lighter color. So this is a step up.
Yeah, it was the lighter version of that. Yeah, we don't want it to be too, we don't want it to be bright white or anything, but the house directly across the street on Release Valley is white, and 2 doors down, a brand new house that was just built and approved is also a very bright white. So this is actually much darker than the nearby neighbors. The next door neighbor has one that's a similar darkness.
Alrighty, so welcome. This is your opportunity to present.
Are you speaking to me?
I'm trying to find a phone number to call in. I'm going to try to call in. Can you hear me?
On and off.
Times.
On and off. I'm gonna call in the number, Sarah. So I'll do that in a minute. But if you could do your presentation, I can certainly hear you. So I'll try to call in a different way. So that help? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, you can present.
Sandra, go.
Oh, that's to me. I
Yes.
think I'd like Rob Schmidt, the property owner, to
Sure,
tell
yeah.
you a little bit
Can you hear
about
me?
the house and.
Thumbs up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hey, thanks for being here, Melanie. Thank you for helping us through this process. As to the color specifically, we're not really hung up on a color. We have followed Melanie's guidelines, and if we need to go darker, we can. But I think we meet that criteria. I think the only thing that I really want to talk about is the reduction of the height of the building, and really the reason that we have it at the 11-foot mark is we are trying to keep it as level with the current house as possible, so that in the future a ramp can be put in. Right? We have unfortunately 6 parents. I have step parents, 6 parents that may need to live with us at some point in time, and so we're trying to reduce the amount of drop from the house down. The other thing we're trying to do is not see a big roof from our current structure. Having said all of that, if the commissioners and everybody really wants us to drop it a foot, we have no problem dropping it a foot. But that's the process. My wife and I are native Californians. We moved to Lafayette a couple of years ago. We plan on being here for the next 15 years, and we plan on making this house the one we want to do. You can see from all of the plans, the landscape plan, and just about and all the other pieces, we're trying to plan the property as a whole. There are multiple phases. We will eventually come through and remodel the current house, but financially we just can't do that right now. So this plan is for the bottom piece of the property in the pool. And we're trying to plan it to have the right architectural aesthetics that we want to move back to this house. So I think that's what you see. I don't know that I have much more to say unless there are questions, but I'm happy to take them.
I could add a little more, and that is that the current house that the Schmidts moved into a little less than 2 years ago does not have any garage at all at this point. Previous owners removed it and made that into living space. And so they just have a driveway that comes up and ends abruptly at the wall of their existing house. So they would keep that. We are proposing we keep that small driveway for parking. There's another older driveway for some reason also next to it. That one would go away. But the main thing we wanted to achieve with the new addition is to provide an actual garage as well as a living space above, so that we could add a couple of bedrooms. There's no kitchen, just living space, a bathroom, and 2 bedrooms, one of which would be used in the near future by Rob himself as his office, and then for visiting family when they come. So as we talked about, we didn't want to have too many steps going down to it. We wanted it to be as connected to the main house as possible. We looked at it on different parts of the site, and we chose this location on the site for the addition because we could work with the natural grade without having to change it much at all. It's an odd shape, the site. If you've been out to see it, you know that the main house is sitting up pretty high, and then there's a big slope down, and then you've got the area that goes towards the road. And so to do that without, it would have seemed kind of awkward if we made it connect to the main house. it would have seemed awkward in other ways to put it on the other side of the house next to Vaughn Road, and it would have required more grading that way. So we're staying with the natural topography of the lot as much as possible, actually very much. And that will, you know, help deter drainage problems. It also allow us to keep as much of the native and natural topography and planting as we can. As mentioned, the trees that we're proposing to take out are black walnuts, which are not normally protected trees, but we found out that under a previous remodel or something that a previous owner had done, that it then kind of, you know, it leaped it into being protected because they happen to be there. They're not in good health. They don't look good. If we're trying very hard to keep all the very large and the oak trees. We designed around them, so there shouldn't be any problem for it. But the black walnuts just don't look in good health, and it's easier to remove them before construction than after. And, you know, that becomes a fire hazard if they continue to decline in health. So that was that reasoning on there. And that's how we kind of came to this area of the site to build on. And trying to think if there's any other issues I should address. Let me know. Melanie? Do you know if there's other issues I should address?
Not at the moment. If the commissioners have questions, then you're definitely able to answer them if they have any other questions.
Yeah, through the chair, I have some questions. Chair, this is Eugene here, speaking through the cell phone here. I have some questions to the applicant. One of them would be on your package. I didn't see a couple of the elevations of the new proposed two-story add-on building. Do you have any drawings that show those two elevations that were missing on the package? At least the package I got only showed the front elevation that was fronting on the main road and then had a side view of the pool side, but I didn't get the other two sides. So just to get a sense of the entire facade. But the bigger item would be contextual information. How the two buildings are perceived and observed from the main Raleigh Valley Road would be something I'd be looking forward to see. If the architect has something like that, that would be really helpful. So that, because I'm mainly concerned, it's your private property, but I would be concerned about how it might be perceived from the public right-of-way, and that would be the Raleigh's Valley Road. If you have something like a straight-on elevation, that would be helpful for me. Do you have anything like that to show us?
A straight-on elevation that shows both the existing and the new addition
Yes,
on the same drawing?
Correct,
No,
and this is where I'm coming. Yeah, so thank you. So you don't have it yet. The thought process I have is I want to first of all compliment you for coming to the city with a master plan to show the entire vision of what the Schmidt family is intending on doing. But sometimes I have worries because, not that I don't trust the Schmidt family, but when you do phase one and it's of a different design vocabulary, you know, metal roof. I'm not saying I don't like metal roof, but it's just a different vocabulary. And the texturizing of the facade and the rhythm of the window and all are different than the existing character of the sort of a more of a heavy look of tile roof and all that. I'm not saying you have to replicate it, but did you try as an architect that you have an existing building already, and I understand in about 4 years you'll go and do that second phase, but for at least 3 or 4 years, if not even longer, there might be the look on that hill of two different vocabulary for a while. And I'm not saying that you can't do it, but can you tell us what the reason was for the choice of materials when in the existing context is more of a heavy tile roof, you know, kind of a, I wouldn't say a mission style, but it's more heavy look. So I'd like to ask the architect that question.
Yes, well, we did design it as a whole to, with the intent of building the entire project to look as the drawings show today. But they'll be in stages, and because we went back and forth of do we go for approval of the entire project, including the remodel of the existing house now. And the reason we couldn't do that is because of the timeframes that you have to complete construction documents and begin construction and so forth that don't fit into the 1 year with a 2-year extension. We weren't sure that that would work because we think it's going to be more like 4. We do have stucco, smooth stucco, very similar to the existing home, and the pitch of the roof is similar. But ultimately, the look that we'd like to have is the very deep overhangs for some additional shade and to connect the indoors with the outdoors more, where we have large windows that open up into the yard, and connect the living space in the outside is really going to be the heart of the home. It's going to be on the decks almost. And that flow of the deck to the existing deck to the new deck is going to be in the same vocabulary, and that will be constructed during this first phase for the most part. Then it'll be the roof that we want to change to a hip roof, make it a little less obtrusive, and we just think more attractive. And that's why we chose to go with the hip roof with the deep 4-foot overhangs for the new addition. It's more attractive and we didn't want to build something that looks exactly what the existing home does now, when our goal is to improve the entire property ultimately anyway.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That answers my question. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm looking at the roof plan A 1.4. I don't see any solar panels. How are you planning to heat the pool?
Rob, would you like to answer that?
Sure, yeah. The location, if you drove by, first, and thank you, Sandra, for not calling it ugly house, because our current house is very ugly, and so I don't want to take any of the old stuff to the new. So that's the prior question. But the station of the way the building sits down in the valley and behind what is Briones, I guess, we have sun that comes kind of up over the left of us and comes down. And there isn't a good spot for solar panels on that roof. If they are efficient enough, if they're effective enough, I want solar on the entire house. There will certainly be solar on this house. And I think the plan was to make it solar ready. If I am proven wrong and there are solar panels that are efficient enough to go on there, I absolutely want them and want to put them on. But at this point, I don't think the location is right for solar.
Well, it's south directed, a lot of the roof, half the roof.
It is. It's south directed behind a big oak and behind what is Briones, one of the mountains. But like I said, if that's a condition and we can find the right solar panels that are effective and efficient enough to put on there, by all means, absolutely, I want them on.
It's not, if I may, as a new building, it might be required to have solar regardless, because it's a new building and under the new California building codes, it will have to have solar unless it's built to a certain standard. So they might have to have solar panels regardless before to have approval by the Contra Costa County Building Department.
I thought it was solar ready, but that's fine if that's a requirement.
I'm not 100% sure. They would definitely know, but I know that there is that new requirement with like new buildings and single family residences need solar.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's evolving. It was solar ready, and with the newer code, it goes a little further than that, and how they define an addition to an existing property will matter as well. So we'll work with that for sure.
And on one other question, do you have the total on the landscaping plan? Do you have the total annual water usage?
We don't have the civil engineer here with us today. I could look through and see if it mentions that type of calculation in here at all. We have chosen a palette of native low water use plants that are drought tolerant. So I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I see that on sheet L 0.2, but that table doesn't give me a quantity. And when I look at the plans, there's a lot of plants.
Yeah, there's a lot of plants.
And I'm concerned about the density of the planting that we have. It's really dense.
One thing that this landscape architect tends to do is to show the sizes of the plants as they will be when they're mature, so that you're not putting too many crowded too close together. And because they are native and drought tolerant, they'll need more water in the beginning to get established, but then as they mature, they shouldn't need as much as honestly what's there now. So I can't really say a whole lot more to that with any real good knowledge, but we can get back to you.
The intent, though, was to be low water use with, and so the intent is to not, and we can get that information to you. But if it is way out of whack, I would want to change it as well.
Yeah,
it's really dense. Okay, I mean, I looked at a lot of these landscape plans, and when I see this many plants, you know, with not a lot of mulch or bark area or something, it really makes me wonder if you're up 1,000 gallons a day.
Fair
That's
question.
why I asked, because they did use the UC system on the designation of the plants, but there's no total on there. So there's no way for me to know, you know, without counting every one of those little circles and determining what they are and tabulating them. And
If
that's not my job.
no, if you'd like, Commissioner Cass, we could add a condition that a WELO table is provided for staff's review and approval. And if it is over the allotted amount, that the landscape plan is altered to be at the lower water usage. And if you would also want to view that as well, we can condition it so that it's reviewed by staff and one DRC commissioner for approval.
Yeah. Okay. The only other thing is there's quite a few of this Taxus Icus, and it's a moderate water user, which is one of your larger water users. Again, you have them lined up, long line from what I'm reading. So I am concerned about where we are on total water use.
Well,
That's the only plant, by the way, that's the only one that I see that is a moderate use, that is quite a few of them on the property.
okay, well, I appreciate that insight as well. And I know the Schmidts do as well. So we'll be happy to take that on as a condition and look at that and change it if necessary with our landscape architect.
Yeah, I've been unofficially using a rule of thumb of about 750 gallons a day as a max
Okay.
with a pool. So that includes whatever refill the pool there is as well.
Okay. Noted. And we will definitely talk to our team about that. Appreciate that.
All right. So can you hear me now? Yes? No? Glenn, do you want to take over this as chairman? I can't. I don't know what to tell you. You want to, I'll step aside and I'll just listen. That makes sense?
Now we hear you.
So Glenn, he was asking if you want to take over as chair.
I was asking, can you take over for me? You.
Okay, I can do that. Do we want to start comments? Do you want to start comments, Patrick?
We're still in
Oh,
questions, and then we have public comment.
correct. Any other questions for Sandra?
If I may, I have questions.
Yes.
You know, I see the landscape plans, but there are no landscape elevation drawings or perspectives to help me understand the intent of kind of the massing of the planting. And in particular, one of the things I know, the one public comment that we've seen questions is the intent of screening between this property and the adjacent properties. The current state is very natural and, pardon me if I say, a little bit ragged looking. And I see a very substantial planting. I'd like to know the design intent for how screening to the right of way and adjacent properties is envisioned.
Are you asking for additional illustrations of that, or?
Well, for starters, if we could look at a landscape plan and you could point out what has some height and screening capability. I can't tell from a landscape plan.
Okay.
Do you mind putting a landscape plan on the screen and pointing that out?
Yeah, I'll share my screen with the landscape plan.
Okay, great. Rob, would you like to speak to that some?
Yeah, sure. And actually, Melanie can too, because Melanie had the same question around the neighbors that we are adjacent to, and we added some height in that in those shrubs to give us that. So as it comes up, we can talk through it.
So is everyone able to see?
Yes.
Yes.
And I just minimized it. Okay, there we go.
And I believe the question is very specifically the bottom of this chart. Yes, and right in there. We didn't have, I don't know the heights of them right off the bat, but we didn't have anything above the fence in the first iteration with this. And one of the conditions that Melanie added as a project manager was to add some height and some masking there. And so we did it. That's the only area that we truly try to cover so it adds privacy. The rest of it, there are tall things throughout, but they're really intended for part of the landscape, not necessarily for privacy, if that makes sense. I don't know that I have your specific answer though on how tall they are.
You know, I mean, for instance, I'm looking on Release Valley Road, there are empty white circles, which I assume are more substantial plants. What are those? How tall are those? Yes, those.
Yeah, we would have to. I don't know. We'd have to go back to the reference prior to that.
Because if those have some screening ability, I think they would be a response to your neighbor's comments.
These larger ones right here say 7 Cargal. That's probably this Latin name, which I'm not very well versed on. So I'm assuming it's going to be probably this Carpinteria, California for those 7. I don't know. Can you see are you able to see the planting page on my screen, on your screen, or just the landscape plan?
I see it, but it's kind of hard to picture what this means in this design.
Well, I can address that or help out in some way. Most of the plants are just going to be small shrubs and grasses. The ceanosis, which is the purplish looking color, it will get 6 to 8 feet in height. And the ones that they're using as the barrier that in a long row, those will serve as get higher in that range, 8 feet or more. Most of the other stuff is really going to be under 3 foot in height.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously trees are trees. The trees that they have, strawberry tree and I think the red bud, you know, they don't get very big. The red bud is probably 9 to 12 feet height.
Yeah.
Can you point out the new trees on the plan? Are they the hexagons?
The hexagons, this is an existing tree, or no, excuse me. So yeah, there's this one right here. There's a little one over here, up here, here, and here. Please know that, and there's one right here. They are conditioned to plant an additional 3 24-inch box oaks that aren't shown of where they could be planted at this time. So if screening is a concern, we could have maybe one, like have them alter the landscape plan, and one could be over here or along here instead, if for privacy or screening.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would just suggest that when you look at where you're going to put those, you do consider that neighbor's concern. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions by commissioners? Okay, moving on. Do we have any questions by the public?
I'll go ahead and ask anyone who is watching and attending, if you have a public comment on this item, please raise your hand using the function at the bottom of your screen. Give people a minute. If you're calling in, it's *9. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. So moving on to commissioner comments. Who would like to start? Eugene, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah,
and start?
sure. Yeah, so I thank the applicant for answering some of my concerns about the overall objective here. And my concern today would be that some of the comments that Commissioner Gray mentioned as well. I just like to make sure that every applicant that we review, application review, we request, especially on hillside like this, we request a more of a contextual drawings, whether it's a 3D image or and nothing fancy, even some straight on elevation. And I find that the presentation tools today that show us their project was a little bit, for me, a little bit fragmented. The plans and elevation of each building separately annotated and discussed. That's great. It tells us a story, but I'm more interested in how those entire complex and master plan gets visually ordered on that site for first phase and second phase. So, like for instance, I would like to see on the first phase how the new additional building projects onto the existing building. And I totally agree with the applicant as well as the commissioners. This is a much improved look of the existing condition with this new addition. But in the event that it doesn't happen for a long time, I still would like to know and how it might feel like for 4 years at least, let's say. And hopefully I'll cheer the Schmidt family, hopefully earlier, that when you have a new addition with an existing, it may be that way for 4 years. And then the next contextual drawing that I would see is then when on the fourth year that the new building with the additional renovation to the backside would look like this. Then I could really capture the imagination of what they're trying to do, and we could live with it for 4 years. So that would be my concern, is that this is a project in a master plan. I get it. It's an improvement to the site, but I'd like to see that. My couple other questions I have is, if we go forward today with approval with conditions, I would say, that the contextual information was one that I have not seen yet, so I'm not comfortable. And then other items, if the other commissioners like to continue processing this, would be that I would like to make sure that the metal roof profile is detailed out, because, metal roof comes in all kinds of seams, and we certainly, because this one projects right on Reliz Valley, I would like to make sure that we know the exact detail of that roof, the reflectivity of the metal roof, because there's sometimes that you put a coating and do it so it doesn't go as much reflective, type of roof that you sometimes see. And then the other things would be the profile of the standing seam. I think that the applicant and the architect is probably looking to do a more of a flatter, a more kind of a very nice, clean-looking roof. So that would be a detail that I would be very much interested in seeing, as well as because we're looking at upward. toward the underside of the roof because they do overhang. I'd be interested in what the detail of the underside of the roof overhang looks like. Is it finished off? Is it exposed? Is it sloped? You know, all kinds of variables, right? Because we certainly don't want to make a nice Schmidt residence looking like for us. I think the architect is well-intentioned and well qualified, but you know, we certainly want something nice there. The other things that I wanted to comment on is material and color board that Commissioner Gray pointed out. I equally have similar concerns, and I don't think we have adequate color and material board tonight to render a final decision on assurance that this is in fact the color material. And so I think there's some calibration of the gray tone, darkness that I think other commissioners talked about. That would be something that I'd be interested in seeing. And then the other question, the other thing that I have, and this is one related to the vertical datum control, 1 foot, down versus up that you talked about at the outset. I looked at the cut and fill. It's a minor export. I mean, 35 cubic yards, but nevertheless, can you set the datum a little bit higher maybe? And then the slope, I mean, the vertical datum control of your plate, the structure plate is lessened so that you can still match up the circulation of that patio to the existing building above you there. And then last but not least, if this does go forward, because I do have reservations, but you know, I'd like to hear what other commissions say tonight. But another one would be the roof with the roof vent and stack vent, right? All those things come through the metal roof even more clearly. And I'd be very interested in making sure those things are not seen on the street side. They're on the back side if you ever have to put any vent stack or stack vent, these kind of things. That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. John, do you have any comments?
Thank you. I support what Commissioner Sims said broadly. I won't repeat those things. But I would say that, you know, I think it's a nice design. I think it's a sensitive design that considers a lot of the aspects of the site and tries to land as lightly as is reasonably possible there. So I appreciate that part of the design. I really wish I could see the context, and I don't know, it's a question for staff if there's a way we can clarify to applicants that context documents would be really helpful for us to understand the project when we look at it. I maybe don't feel quite as strongly as Commissioner Sim regarding the need to reconsider colors. I think it's in a general tone range that I'm comfortable with. I think it's going to be a nice design. I would feel a little more comfortable if I saw more context, but I'm fairly comfortable with what I see.
And if I could clarify real quick, I do have other colors of the materials with me. It was just that stucco color. So I do have what the roof metal would look like and the decking and the slate that will be used if you would like to see.
Yeah, and when we're challenged, of course, by the fact that we're not meeting together in the same room where we'd have a finished board to look at. So
why don't you briefly show us, Melanie?
I can show them individually. So this is the decking, the proposed decking. This is the slate to be proposed to be used
as a paving.
Yeah, it'd be slate paving. Excuse me. And then this is got to be, I'll have to get very close. This is the color of the metal roof proposed, this antique bronze.
Bronze.
It's a darker antique bronze. I don't, so I understand, Commissioner Eugene, that you've mentioned this before about the reflectivity. So that could be something we could also condition about providing a physical sample to make sure the reflectivity is, there is no reflectivity if.
Yeah.
Okay, Patrick, are you done, John?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Patrick, comments?
Yeah, I'm hoping you guys can hear me now. Is this something that you guys can hear?
Yes.
All right.
Very clear.
All right. So I really don't have any major issue with the building. I understand that you want to have a 10-foot plate height, but where the building's located right against the road, I kind of agree with staff that reducing the height by a foot and you adding a step to, or another step and a half, 2-step to the difference between the house is probably not such a big deal in relation to the size of the structure close to the road. My biggest issue, and I guess Commissioner Cass tapped on it originally in the questions, there's a lot of landscaping. It just seemed like it's overplanted. And I also have a lot of issue with, it seems like you're covering so much of the area with what appears to be impervious surfaces. You have concrete to the south of the new structure. You have concrete appears to the north of the structure, the new structure. The pool deck is probably all, I can't really tell from the drawings, all impervious. The pool obviously is impervious. There's a lot of impervious surfaces, and for the size of the lot, you're covering so much of it. I guess another issue I have, and I guess it's to some extent we're working from electronic drawings, but I'm having a hard time figuring out from your drawings what scope we're approving. Because I can see you have your phases and you have your information, but on some drawings it shows the deck is associated to the existing house is proposed, but in other drawings it shows future and materials and what they're going to be. I'm not really clear. And if we're just looking at the house, I can make comments just about the house, but it seems like we're looking at all of this and it's not clear to me. And I think that it needs to be for me to be comfortable saying that this is what we're approving. I would like to see less impervious surfaces. I'd like to see less planting, less concrete. And I know you mentioned that your civil engineer is not present this evening, but your calculation for cubic yard removal seems way off. You're cutting deeply into a hill on about a 40-foot, 35-foot section and taking out a significant amount. I don't know how you could possibly make that 42 yards. I'd like you to check that. So those are my comments.
Okay, and my comments parallel a lot of people. I'm sort of split on the height of whether it's 10 feet or 11 feet. When I'm looking at the section there, to be honest with you, is I don't think you're going down 1.6 feet now. You would go down, if it was 10 feet, you'd be going down 2.6 feet, but I'm not sure you have the length of that ramp to put in a ramp at any point in time and meet ADA requirements on the slope of that ramp. So really going down to 10 feet, I don't think is going to affect the ramp, because I don't think the ramp is necessarily is doable. In regards to Patrick's comments on density of landscaping, I do have some concern about that I raised during the question period. The selection of plants is wonderful. Your landscape architect has really picked some really nice species for you. You're going to be really pleased, but I think he has to thin it out a little bit. And I do share the comment about the amount of impervious surfaces that we have, and the comment regarding the solar heating for the pool. And the solar heating, I believe that under Title 24, you have to do something on that at this point in time. So you are going to have to mount that somewhere, whether it's on your existing house or whether it's on the new addition. And I also agree with Patrick, it was very confusing to see. I mean, I understand what you've done on putting renovations in the house, but I was really looking at this and thinking, now, am I approving the pool today, or is the pool actually part of the conceptual in the future as well? So anyway, so do we have a resolution to this, or are we wanting them to come back, or are we able to condition things and come to a resolution?
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see some of my comments addressed. I think it's something that we need to see back.
Okay.
That would be my feeling.
And I agree also with that. I would appreciate if we could be continued to come back with some of the responses to our comments, because I think it's a good application, but we'd like to get that resolved. A couple of things we talked about tonight.
Okay. Sarah, do you need, or Melanie, do you need us to recapitulate, summarize, or do you think you have?
I just wanted to be clear to the applicants and to the commission and make sure it's get approval of the applicants that the PSA deadline is July 7th. And based off what you guys would like to see, which the following, you would like to see contextual design. Eugene Sim would like to see how maybe breaking up how the new building and the house will look like at phase 1 contextually against each other, how it will look in phase 2, and also probably how it looks off Release Valley Road. Commissioner Gray would like to see the maybe contextual of the vegetation, like height wise, or would like to see maybe higher planting for screening to address that public comment. And you and Commissioner Collins would like to see maybe a reduction in the impervious surface, reduce the plate height, and thin out the landscaping with a WELO table that shows how much water usage will be used.
The only thing I'd add to that is that I would like to have the drawings clarified about what exactly we're approving.
And the drawings clarified of what you're approving, which I can tell you for as well, but yes, just to make it more clear views, and the cubic yardage of earth movement to be reassessed and approved by the civil engineer.
Yep.
So their PSA deadline is July 7th. Based on the amount of information you want, they probably wouldn't be able to go back to the DRC until after July. So we would have to have a signed PSA agreement to extend their approval for an additional 150 days. So if Sandra or Mr. Schmidt's okay with that, to be able to continue it.
Yeah, I don't actually know what that means. So Melanie, if you and I can have a conversation via email over the next day, we can answer that.
Yeah.
So we would need to at least continue it to a date certain, so we can continue it to June 24th. And then depending on the outcome of your conversation, we can either continue it or take action that evening.
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue it to June 24th with those comments.
Second.
Seconds? All in favor? Roll call?
Aye.
Patrick, John,
Aye.
Patrick says aye.
okay, aye. So,
Aye.
okay, moving
Aye.
on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item, 7B, is HDP 03-20, TP 07-20. Zhang, and I will not pronounce that right, Liao. Owners R2 zoning. Staff report. Who do we have for?
Good evening. You just give me one moment to get set up.
Where am I?
All right, everybody can see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners. The item before you tonight is application HDP 0320, which is an application to demolish an existing 2,914 square foot single family residence and replace it with a 6,929 square foot single family residence at 3913 Happy Valley Road in the Hillside Overlay District. The application also includes a request for a Category 2 tree permit for the removal of one 12-inch coast live oak. Tonight, we will discuss the site layout, the building design, and details like colors, materials, and lighting. Staff requests that the commission provides feedback to the applicant, find the project exempt from CEQA, and adopt Resolution 2020-03, approving the project subject to conditions. The subject parcel is located off of Upper Happy Valley Road on Valley View Road, has an existing 1950s home and a pool with decks and patios surrounding both. According to city and county records, there have been no development applications for this parcel since the house was built in 1954. The proposed new residence would be built largely within the existing building footprint and minimize the amount of site work needed to accommodate the increased square footage. The building pad is cut into the slope at the back of the lot with a significant area of landscaping buffering the home from the road. This site also uses the existing topography to maintain privacy for both the owners and their neighbors. The proposal also includes improvements to outdoor living spaces, including replacing decks and patios around the pool and house, and incorporating landscape walkways, seating areas, and a play area into the yard. The outdoor living spaces are all located a minimum of 100 feet from any neighboring properties and are unlikely to create any new noise disturbances. The project will retain much of the existing vegetative cover, including many mature oak, bay, and manzanita trees. Existing landscaping will also be supplemented by screening shrubs around the outdoor social spaces in the lower elevation areas of the property and along the upper deck near the residence. The applicant is seeking a Category 2 tree permit for the removal of one 12-inch live oak tree. So this strict application of the code requires a replacement value of 4 15-gallon trees. And the applicant has agreed to plant two 24-inch box live oak trees to satisfy the replacement requirement, which has been included as a condition of approval. Hello?
Okay, is that it?
No, sorry, my slides are taking a little bit of time to load. While the proposed residence would entail a significant increase in building area of about 4,000 square feet, staff finds the building design is not out of scale with its lot or the neighborhood, and that the design successfully breaks up the massing through varied building planes and hipped roofs to create smaller elements across the building's length and are in keeping with the residential design guidelines. This design would also reduce the maximum building height by over 6 feet and minimize the potential for off-site visibility. You can see at the lower left, the top of the existing nave roof is visible from the driveway on Valley View Road. However, the new design and roof plan would likely be obscured with landscaping and its lower elevation. The proposal uses natural materials like stone and wood and dark sky compliant downlighting fixtures, also in keeping with the residential design guidelines. Staff does have concerns about the potential for the proposed light colored stucco and stone cladding to increase potential visibility of the property from off-site, and has included a condition for staff's review and approval of a darker color choice for the stucco and stone. Staff has evaluated the project in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and found it to be exempt under Section 15301, Class 1 demolition and removal of a single family residence, and Section 15303, Class 3A, new construction of one single family residence in a residential zone. Referrals were sent out and staff received a standard response from the County Sanitary District, the Fire Protection District, provided comments around fire access and turnaround space, which would be addressed in their review of construction drawings. And the city engineer provided comments surrounding permeable pavers for the driveway and dissipators for stormwater management across the site. Notices of this public hearing were sent to properties within 300 feet of the subject parcel, and staff received no comments from the public. Staff recommends commissioners hold a public hearing, review the application, provide comments to the applicant, find the project exempt from CEQA, and adopt resolution 2020-03 approving the project subject to conditions. I'm available for any questions.
Any commissioner questions?
I have a question, Renata. I having visited the site, the visibility from Valley View Road is very much obscured due to the natural landscape. My question to you is, and what I can't tell from the documents at all, how visible is this house, or would this house be to the neighboring residences? Is there a lot of landscape and natural landscape in between?
So yes, there are a lot of mature trees around, both on this property on the outside, and also that of neighboring parcels. And I'll show the survey, which can give a clearer picture. So this area is all heavily landscaped, or there's a lot of vegetation. My concern with the color is more the hillsides off in the distance, where properties might be at a higher elevation, but this slope obscures it from all the immediate neighbors.
Thank you.
I had a quick question. This is Patrick. Can you go to L10? So my question is that lower left corner on an adjacent property? Because cross-referencing all the other drawings, that looks like the property line to me.
You talking about the artificial turf?
Yeah, that and retaining walls that stick out right there, right down there. Are we really showing a drawing that is on somebody else's property? That is the property line, right?
It is.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. That doesn't seem logical to me, but moving on. I think in the old D-Bolt drawing that you just had up, it had a different wall that addressed that it was that had to be pulled back. But I guess that's a neighbor issue.
Trust me, it won't be built on the other side.
Yeah, so on this drawing, you can see how the walls bend at the property line and don't cross. Yeah, okay. That's what I was just saying, if it was a setback line or a property line, but thank you. That's the only question I had.
Okay. Presentation by the architect or Jeff?
I'll start first. My name's Jeff Stone with Diamond Construction. First, I just want to thank Renata for meeting us out at site and providing such a full and complete, thorough staff report. We've been working with the family for about 2 to 3 years to identify a site that provided the opportunity to create a home that had both seclusion, privacy, an area that they wanted to make their long time home. This is the second property in Happy Valley that we've worked with the family. We've gone through a full process with Dennis Giacovelli of the Houseworks, of which we've worked with many times. I want to just go high level that this is a 3.5 acre site. It provides that privacy and seclusion and the central design criteria of what they're looking for their home, and to be put in a place that they just really felt like could give them the objectives of the next 30 to 40 years of their life. The siding and massing is conforming to zoning, the general plan. There's a strong sensitivity to offsite impacts. To the question of the vegetation, if you're on the site or anywhere near it, you can see that the uphill slope protects any neighbors that are anywhere surrounding, as well as the only offsite impacts that I've seen from the different areas all over the site, because I've crawled around the 3.5 acres, are across the way of Happy Valley and the upper high side of those hills. The reason that we want to work within the light color stucco is it's a design intent of creating a very clean look. We don't object to working with staff through a condition of approval to work within that. And the other things that I would like to just focus on is the height. We have designed a property that could be here with a 35-foot cross section, and it's just over 20 feet, which I think from the impacts of offsite from the neighborhood and within the design review guidelines is in strict conformance and very respectful of the neighborhood as well as the neighbors. The only other side that I'll add is both the civil engineering is very respectful to the existing topography and the existing site, with the 2 tiers that the cut and fill is yes, this house is larger, but for where we sited on the site and how we massed it, I think it's very respectful in total. I'll push it over to Dennis, but I just wanted to start high level with the relationship that we've had with the clients and the family. And thank you again, Renata, for such a complete staff report.
I don't know, there's much more I could say. As you drive down the Valley View, the picture that was shown here is literally the only spot you can see this house. And it's that big, high pointed glass roof. And what we've done is made that a hip so that the impact is much less. The window, the glazing is much lower on that elevation than it is currently. Also, we have paid particular attention to where we put the additions. It's a bigger house, but we've tucked those additions away from the road. We've gone more towards the heavily wooded area at the back and brought it to the east, which is on the downhill side. So it literally does not impact anyone for privacy or view more than already exists. And we believe that we've actually improved on what is existing. The new residence is also a single story, and many of the houses in this area are a 2-story. We believe that the new residence is actually at least, if not more, hidden when you drive down the Valley View than it is now. And I have yet to see the house from Happy Valley. It just can't be seen. And that also is the same for the swimming pool and those recreation structures down below, which also are put back into the exact location on the lower bench. All the recreation facilities are down at the lower bench where they are now. We've articulated the roof heights, the roof planes. Some are gable ends in the lower roofs, some are hips. We've also articulated the wall planes, the window heights, the decks. It's not a straight line. All these to minimize the bulk of the structure. We also have used the, like I say, the hip for the tallest roofs, of which there are over the library slash music room, the great room, and the entry. Those are all hip roofs. We've also increased the amount of uncovered parking so that when the owner's 3 children and parents are of age, well, the parents are already of age, but the 3 children are of age to be driving, all the parking will be held up at the residence site. Nothing will be off-site. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I have one more thing to state, just because as this commission knows, I do a lot of hillside overlay projects. I think that from a side that we're only asking for 1 12-inch protected oak tree removal on a 3.5 acre site is exceptional. And I think that from a side, it really does show the effort to minimize the grading and drainage impacts and to work within what the Hillside Overlay District was designed to do. The only other thing I want to say is we will survey the site, and I won't, as a contractor, build on a neighbor's property. I apologize for the oversight, not catching that in the plans. We will certainly take care of that and address it accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, any comments or questions from commissioners? I have one question, and maybe I'm just having a hard time reading these drawings, but I'm looking at drawing A3. And in the middle of the west elevation, there's a pretty solid wall there. Is this the wall to the Zen garden that is peaked like that, or what am I looking at? On the west elevation, center of the west elevation?
The courtyard is divided into different areas. There's the master area that's quiet space, the middle area, which is the play area, which is off of the play, the interior play area. And then there's the more quiet area, which is off of the guest suite and the Zen area.
So the Zen area has a wall that is not flat, or it projects up, peaked?
It's a wall.
I don't know how to point to something.
Can you go to the floor plan by any chance?
Yeah, can I
show some? Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what that peaked area of the wall is.
I think you're looking at the guest bedroom.
The area of the wall.
I believe you're looking at the middle elevation that's then tucks structure from entry porch entry and then back, but I'm not sure.
Are you talking about the west elevation?
Yeah, I'm talking at the west elevation, right where it says, what does it say? 20-some feet or something. And there's a big solid hunk of wall with no windows or doors.
That's the end wall of the guest suite, which is basically against the hillside.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, guest bedroom.
So how high is the wall where the Zen garden is? It's not on these elevations then?
The wall that separates the Zen garden from the play garden is only 6 feet high.
And then the replacement retaining wall, how high is it?
I believe it's very close to 6 feet also.
Okay, thank you.
There's an existing wall there, we're just replacing.
Okay, thank you.
Glenn?
Yes,
Glenn?
I've disappeared
thank you,
on
Chair.
view.
Through the chair, Eugene here.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask the architect a question. I think, you know, a planning strategy, I get it, but the building strategy I like to talk about, building facade and building, what would I call it, poetics? What was the gist, what was the poetic idea behind this facade making venture? Right now, I see a palette that you've developed, Dennis. You're the project designer. You have the sort of a structuralism or some kind of a cladding or stonish looking verticals. And then you have stucco and a variety of window pattern that just, I don't know, you know, I see a lot of different patterns in that infill. And so I'm trying to find out what's your intent? Are you trying to express some of the structural characteristics of the building form? Or are you just trying to break up mass by just putting randomly or at corner features these heavier looking stone look? It might be just a veneer, but can you give us a sense of where you're coming from a design approach here? Party, if I might want to say, P-A-R-T-I, like your idea, the intent of using this pattern throughout the building?
It is,
Dennis?
yes, it is a reflection of the structure itself. There was some talk about making the stone wider, but making the sliding doors also wider. And I was not for that. It also reflects the trees, the tree trunks in the area. We're talking vertical tree trunks.
Yeah, correct, Dennis.
Which is structure.
Oh, they are.
So there's nowhere on the building where I just have a solid stone wall.
So you're saying, literally, if I follow the logic behind the building elevations and facade making, that if I follow your logic that anywhere I see vertical stone pattern, that's actually a compressive load-bearing column feature with cladding about it, or that's not CMU, is it? It's just a clad, right?
No.
You're just cladding.
It's a
You're
veneer.
just cladding.
Yes.
It's a veneer, right? So
it's not literally structure.
Yeah, it's an ordering principle. It's a rhythm for you at these areas. So when I look at is it on the elevation sheet that was previously shown by Melanie? I think it's on the straight on elevation sheet. There's certain kind of arbitrary locations of these verticals. So here we go. Thank you. Like when I see your north elevation on the right side, I see somehow the vertical right there. So I say, oh, okay, as a designer, what is he doing? He's trying to make the entire stucco facade broken into maybe you know, kind of a broken scale elements there at that right juncture. But I don't understand that kind of a move like that. I could understand your attempt to portray some structural ordering at the corners. But so anyways, I'm looking at your facade and I'm thinking like, it looks like a fake cladding venue, unless you can articulate that a little bit more for me. And the stucco being infilled with all kinds of window pattern, it just doesn't, you know, for me, I'm not comfortable with that look right now. So, but I'm not, you know, the designer, you're the designer, and I'm not here to design this building, but that's why I wanted to ask you, what was your rationale for this? And so I think you kind of explained it. Okay, very good. That's the question I had. Thank you. Oh, one more question. The deck. On that north elevation, the deck that projects out, on the staff report, the building slab, the existing building slab where this building, this new renovation and new building originates is where the building slab is, but the deck on the north elevation as the deck projects out more left side of it, is that additional deck in the current existing building? There's no deck there, right? Hello, Dennis?
I believe you're right, yes.
I believe there's
At that
a small
location.
walkway around it.
No,
but
it's-
there's no
it's-
deck.
It's concrete
It's concrete.
patios.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but no one sees that anyway, so thank you. Okay, got it. I'm still not totally clear. I wanted you to excite me, Dennis, but I didn't get that yet. So thank you for your, explanation. Okay, thank you.
And you're probably concerned that there was one missing in that corner. There's no stone in that corner. And there was originally, and we decided to give the girls' bathroom a corner view that was private so that you can't get off the deck to see in, and you can't come from the master bedroom to see in. Whereas if that window was farther in the middle of the room, you could see into that bedroom and there wouldn't be any privacy.
Before I just leave it, just one more last question, because we have to move on to the designer again. Are you kind of putting the stone pattern out of the plane so there's some shadow relief in that instead of the stucco, or is it flat flush with that? I can't tell by reading the elevation.
It's 2.5 to 3 inches out.
Okay, thank you. I go back to the chair. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, do we have public comments or anyone that wants to speak from the public?
So I don't see any new attendees. I'm just going to do a little bit of repeating just because it's a new protocol. So if you did want to join the meeting, you would go to the city's website, city calendar, you would click on the agenda, join the meeting as an attendee, and then raise your hand using the button on the bottom of your screen. And I don't see any hands raised. And if you're calling in, it would be *9. No public comment.
Okay, commissioner comments. John, you want to start this time?
Sure. Well, first, let me say that I think the siding and the massing, I think you've been successful in moderating the impact of a fairly large house. So I would say that is successful, and I'm comfortable with that. I maybe share some of Eugene's questions on the facade design, but in my view, the public whose interest we're looking after is probably not going to experience that. So I would accept the designers and the owners' interests on that and think more about what the public experiences of this home. My only concern and question about what the public would experience was raised in the staff report. The question about the color as seen from the north side of the upsloping portion of Happy Valley. And I support the staff report recommendation to ask you to use a somewhat darker color. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm going to say pretty much the same thing. I think that I think you did a really good job of designing the house. I kind of align with both of the previous comments about the materials, but this isn't on Happy Valley. This is tucked back away. So for me, I'm not really concerned. I agree that the colors need to be lighter. Other than that, I don't have any problem with anything else. Well, other than, don't build it on the neighbor's property. That would be a strong recommendation.
Okay. Eugene?
Yeah, I think this application is a very strong site planning and everything to strategize how to make it a very nice project without it being impactful to the neighbor, and all that has been very sensitive thought about. That tree removal, that's excellent from the developer that indicate that. So I'm good with this application. I just wish the designer, Dennis, could have excited me, but it's okay. It's a private property, and go for it, okay? All right, thank you.
Okay, and my comments pretty much parallel the others. I do have One concern, again, on the roof plan, I see nothing on solar for the pool. So I'm not sure how that's being handled under Title 24. And also, I would normally say, I'm a little surprised that there's not a pool house. There's a lot of permeable pavement, but given the size of the property, the water's all going to end up on your acreage anyhow. So I guess that's not going to be a problem. So overall, I think it's acceptable. Okay, do we want a resolution? Do we have a resolution?
Did the applicant have something to add quickly?
Just on the solar side, obviously we we go through an approval process first before we go to Title 24 and structural engineering. You're correct. Every one of these houses that we're building ground up from this point, from all the new homes that I'm building, do have solar. And a house of this size, I'm guessing probably about 18 to 40 panels. Just because it doesn't reflect on the plan yet, we just have to go through that process. And as you know, we do that after. So it's we will be complying with the current Title 24 calculation requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application per staff report. All the findings of and conditions of approval in the staff report. I'd like to make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Patrick. So let's do a roll call on approval. John?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Eugene?
Aye.
Glenn? Aye. Okay. Moving on to our 14 days for appeal.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We're excited about this project. Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. Moving on to other business. Art volunteer for June 12th. I will volunteer unless someone else wants the opportunity, but it's fine with me. Commissioners' reports. I'd like to bring up something, but I'm not sure I'm allowed to bring it up without being on the agenda.
You can bring it up to agendize and talk. You just can't, all of you cannot talk about it unless it's been agendized.
Okay. So the thing that I want to talk a little bit about was a property on Dewing that we had a change of staff and the builder made what I would consider significant changes ultimately. And it did not come back to Design Review Commission. And one of the changes is going to be a costly change to the commission in the future because it was a big cost reduction item. And I happened to be at the site when another one of the contractors in Lafayette was there and made notice of the major change in design. And I knew his brain was going 1,000 miles an hour about, oh, this is how to get around what you don't like from the commission. Just go back and redo it at a later date without going back through the commission. So I'd like to have a discussion on that.
So I don't know if we would bring back a specific project, but maybe if it's something a bit more general.
Yeah, I understand that.
So what was the issue? What was the change? If it can be a general.
Well, we didn't give a variance for the deck to be completely redone, which it was. But then what they did is they basically took old timber from the house and sistered them in next to the new roof joist. I mean, the deck joist to make it look like they salvaged the old deck. And the facade went from a cultured stone veneer on part of it to what I would call a semi-Tudor look which was about a $65,000 change for less money. And when we're considering the fact that the house sold for over $2.25 million, which comes out to $1,000 a square foot. Okay, why are we making changes that are significantly changing the outside? The windows changed in size, the colors changed, the landscaping didn't meet the plans. It looks like the contractor took advantage of the fact that staff had changed, and he proceeded to start doing the stuff and
Can I confirm what, well, let's not talk about a specific project, but so essentially you want to have a general discussion about the types of changes that can be made without coming back to the full commission.
I
And
think
maybe
so.
perhaps.
I think that would be a good.
There was so many changes,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Okay, and are we certain, we can definitely look into that individually and see whether or not it's been final, because if there are in fact significant changes that have not been approved and it hasn't been final, then we can work with the property owner with regard to that. But I think
I think they've been finaled, number one, okay? But number two is I brought it to staff attention, and I was told that it was being reviewed by one of the commissioners. Which is, which normally I would say is not a problem, but it seemed like, wow, I was really surprised at how many changes there were and how they lowered the price, but the price of the house was high, really high.
okay, we can bring back a
This was a
discussion.
rebuilt house. $1,000 a square foot is really a good. We should all be so lucky to sell houses at that price.
Yeah.
You should come over to my neighborhood, man. All the crappy houses are going for $1,000 a square foot.
So I support Commissioner Cass's request for this to be tabled through staff for a general discussion for a future review of some policies, maybe from a design review commission side of it. So I appreciate Commissioner Cass. I support that. Let's table that in as a discussion item at a future meeting.
And I agree. I think one of the things that we need to talk as a group is how we want to deal with these boomerang applications, because that definitely wasn't the first, and it certainly won't be the last. And I do agree with Glenn that a lot of the people that are doing these projects will go in, and we've seen a lot of these just in the last couple of years where they make commitments for things that they think about afterwards that they don't want to do. And we need to have some, level of I don't know what it would be or how we do it, but I think that's what we need to discuss. Some level of what kicks it back to the full DRC. And I think it would be good if we all as a group decide, because that's really what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I will agendize that.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other commission report? Anything from staff to report? Sarah?
Nothing to report.
Okay. I guess we
Hey,
are.
I just want to say, Commissioner Cass, I just want to say, I barely got in today. That the audio, the meeting was cool that I got in, but I was struggling. I'm so blessed that I got in. I want to thank everyone that somehow got into the meeting. The audio part was not working for me somehow. I don't know. Patrick, did you have the same problem tonight?
I've never had that problem on any of my other Zoom or Blue Jean meetings with this computer. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It might be, Sarah, something. Have you heard this or had this problem with anyone else? Because I do Zoom meetings every single day.
Yeah. This is it's a little bit different in that it's a webinar format. It's my first one using this format, so I don't know if it's sort of a recurring problem with audio, but let's hope not.
I'll swap out my computer for the next one, and if we have a problem, then it's on you.
We'll fix it.
Okay,
All right. Sounds good.
you.
Thanks.
Okay,
okay.
Thanks, Glenn.
You're welcome.
nice job, Glenn.
Okay.
So do I make a motion to, I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting tonight, Chair.
I
Great.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Sim, although I think we don't have a vote for
Okay.
that, so.
We're good. Okay, bye, you guys. Bye, Sarah. Bye, John.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.